Recording. Good evening. We continue to celebrate Black History Month on Black Authors Matter TV, and you've reached us for our February 8th show. Thank you for all who are new to the show, just tuning in. Thank you also to our dedicated viewers who are with us almost every week or every week. Some of you are on every week. So we love you and thank you so much for your support. This show continues to grow and we have some really exciting things in store in the coming months. So we're looking forward to that. I'm Gwen Richardson. I forgot to say that. I'm Gwen Richardson. I'm your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Hello, everybody. I am not beautiful, Elle. For some reason, I'm still my daughter's. I mean, I'm beautiful, I guess, but you know, this is beautiful.
Yeah, when two people are using a device, it can be challenging.
Yeah.
So before we start our show, we wanted to make a few announcements. We have our book club kickback on March 22nd. Book clubs are signing up for it, and we will be discussing Ra-Shon Tate Billingsley's new book, Miss Pearlie's Girls, which comes out February 22nd. So for those of you who are in a book club, if you haven't signed up, you should have gotten the email about it and just use that to sign up. We also will be celebrating our Black Authors Matter TV Awards this year again. That'll be on our May 17th show. The entire show will be dedicated to that. And the last day of guests for that process will be March 1st. So that's coming up very soon. And also, we will have the Jerry Pinkney Children's Book Awards this year. That award process will open on or before March 1st. So just get ready for that. That should be really exciting. We're looking forward to that because there's lots of children's authors who have African-American content, but hardly any sources of recognition, especially for small presses and self-published authors, because the Image Awards are really for the major publishers, and you really can't get your foot in the door in that unless you're with one of the big publishers. That's just the way it has evolved over time. So on the top of the show, we're giving away a book. So those of you who tune in early, you all get the opportunity to win a book. Today we have Mary Monroe's book. This was a Christmas novella she did called Once in a Lifetime. I don't know if you can see the cover, but it's a little small book, but it's a hardcover. And the trivia question to win this book is, in what major international city does the main character, Vanessa, want to visit for Christmas? So I guess it'd be what major, not in what major. What major international city does the main character, Vanessa, want to visit for Christmas? And it's in the synopsis of the book as we normally do. Whoever answers it correctly first will win the book and it will be mailed to you. So without further ado, we're going to bring on our first guest. Our lineup for tonight, we have a children's author. Our first guest is Sabrina Crumpton. She has a children's book. Our second guest is Nathan Evans. He's an inspirational author. Meredith McKinney has the Black Book Project out of Nashville, Tennessee. She's going to be updating us on that. And then our final guest is another children's author, Jep Shinholster IV. So Sabrina, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV, and we are excited to have you as a guest.
Hello, how are you? Hi.
Hello, doing great. And you have a children's book that all parents can relate to. Some are going through it now, but many have memories of going through it. And it's about potty training. So tell us the title of your book and show us your book if you have it with you.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It is truly an honor to be around such stellar Blackness. That's all I have to start out with.
Oh,
And so,
that is
yes,
sweet. That's sweet. Okay.
this is my book. I Can Potty Train with Princess Callie Rain.
Okay.
And
And that looks like a hardcover.
it is hardcover.
Okay.
Bring back the hardcover children's books. Yes. Love
Yes.
it.
It's beautiful
And I've
illustration.
gotten, yeah, and you want to hear something funny? So the feedback that I get as it pertains to the books is twofold. The one thing is I get parents who say, "Oh my goodness, my child was having trouble going to the potty." And after I read this story to them, they're going to the potty. And then the other thing is, and it's recent, one of my best girlfriends said she bought one for her granddaughter and she wants her mother to read the book repeatedly because not only does she love the stories, but she loves the illustrations.
Well, they're
Okay.
beautiful illustrations, and also I love how you made the your character a princess, and going to the potty is her throne. So you're making it almost a symbol of royalty. It's a rite of passage to use the bathroom.
That's right. That's right. And at the end of the day, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's a normal process. And so I tried to normalize it for them. And it's so funny because this book really came about because my granddaughter was afraid to go to the potty.
Mm.
And my daughter couldn't figure out a way to get her to go to the potty. And so I wanted to let her know, she's a princess, nothing to be afraid of. Her mommy and her daddy has her back. And, and with this, it was eye-opening for me, for her, because she went to the bathroom.
Oh,
That is really good. So who is Callie Rain? Is that a fictional name or is that your granddaughter's name?
That's my granddaughter's name. She's my first granddaughter.
Okay.
And again, inspired by her. I've written more books
mhm.
and I have published another one, but this one and the second one is really special to me because it was really inspired by my granddaughter.
Okay. Now, can boys who are trying to potty train benefit from the book?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They can benefit from this book. Although it talks about, Princess Callie Rain being afraid, the whole dynamics is for children in general to know that it's okay to use the potty. It's so funny because kids will say it's something in the toilet. It's nothing to be afraid of. Go
Right.
ahead and go to the potty. If Callie Rain can do it, anybody can do it.
Have you thought of maybe doing a book with boy characters with basically the same subject matter?
Absolutely, absolutely. That is a part of my next
Your
chapter.
future list of to be written books.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
Well,
what were you going to ask?
Well, no, I was just going to ask if you actually are able to go into the schools and maybe do story time with some of the younger children, because it seems like this is a story that they all can kind of relate to.
Yep, it is very relatable. And so that's a good question. And the answer to it is yes. I've actually did some footwork and I've gone into some daycares. I've gone into the libraries. And so I still have a lot of work to do. But yes, I've already started on that path because I feel that this book is going to help parents a lot. Number one, it's going to get the kids to want to read. Number two, it's going to get them to use the potty. So it helps twofold.
Okay, when did the book come out?
So the book came out in August of 2021. Last year it came out.
Okay, so it's only
And it
been
was
out
in the
a
midst of
month.
and it was in the midst of the pandemic. So, we kind of had to err on the side of caution, because everybody rightfully so was a little, skeptical. So the footwork really didn't begin until late last year and in January of this year. So again, I still have a lot of work to do.
Of course, of course. So now when you say you have a lot of work to do, what about on the writing front? I know you said you have some plans, but are you currently working on your next book?
I am. I actually have 2 books published. I have another one. My grandkids inspired me, and I'm just going to toss that up real quick.
Yeah,
This is Mirror Mash for my grandson.
Mhm.
okay.
And this speaks to the pandemic and how kids have, are now introverted and stay in their rooms and play video games. So I have Mirror Mash for my grandson Jordan. And then I have a third book called Adia's Big Adventure. I'm actually in the process of putting that together now. And it's an amazing story. It is about a little girl who has kind of like a special gift. And she has a real close relationship with her grandma. And she calls her Amma, which is what my granddaughter calls me.
Okay.
And so it is just, it takes place on a planet. It's not even here. Very colorful. The illustrations are beautiful. And on top of it, because I see it as a movie, I wrote a song for it. So each one of the books, with the exception of I Can Potty Train, I've written a song to each one of the books.
Well, before we go on, I just have to say Black Don't Crack, because I would have never guessed that you were a grandmother until you said so.
I am. Can you? You know what? I don't tell my age, but when you say stuff like that, it just makes me proud. I will be 57 this year.
Come on.
Wow, wow.
Yeah,
You're
I have
right.
4.
You're right. Black don't crack. That's what I said.
Yeah, 4
That's the
kids and 3
same for a
grandchildren.
reason. There's a reason.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's
So
now, who did your illustrations?
I, you know what? When I start to really delve into my story and start telling it, I am obsessed with Fiverr, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Fiverr, what I like about them is because it's like a target for everything, that you want to do creatively. And so I shopped around for some illustrators, some back and forth jogging with some of the people. And when this illustrator sent back I sent her pictures of what I wanted them to look like. They were life pictures of my daughter, her husband, and my granddaughter. And when
Okay.
she came back with this, I was like, oh, I'm going with her. I can write out a whole story, and Fiverr will do some amazing editing. And, I'll go back and forth with the person. No, I don't take that out. We can change it around. So Fiverr is like my one-stop shop for all of the things that I want to do in terms of my book.
Yeah, we both use Fiverr as well for certain things. But have you found that person who's going to be illustrating you forever and ever now?
Yes. So her and I had talked about, we haven't solidified it yet. She just finished the illustrations probably about 2 months ago on the audiobook. We talked about a contract, for future projects. This way I'm not paying individually. We'll have one set price for maybe the next 3 books.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Makes
Mhm.
Now, I use Fiverr for one of my my series. I have a children's book series, and I use Fiverr. I got my illustrator for that from Fiverr, and then for my other book, that's a little more. It's a biographical book, actual women. So I needed something a little more elevated for that. So I went to Freelancer and found a Black woman. Actually, she illustrated that book.
Oh, good.
But both of the
Yeah.
sites are helpful especially for people with a limited budget, and you can get all kinds of you can get some high quality work
Everything.
there, but you have to,
Yes.
you have to look through and sift through.
You have to shop around a little
Yeah.
bit, and you have to be careful because they have some scammers. I actually have a video on YouTube, accounting song for Princess Callie Rain, and I wanted it animated, and that was a process. But I finally, found the right person to help me out to do the animation. It still wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I realized to do what I really wanted is going to cost some really big money. So I was pretty happy with what I had.
Yeah, what I do is for both of them is I give them a little piece at a time. I don't give them everything at once. I give a little bit and I refine it as we go, and I pay them as I go. So that way it can work within a budget, but also if I'm not happy, I'm not all in with one person.
Right.
Now,
Correct.
The key is communication. Whomever you
Yes.
use, make sure that you really don't just throw it at them, because sometimes we do that. We just throw it at them and say, make it beautiful. And we don't communicate with them. We don't tell them exactly what we need. And then when they come back and ask questions, we're still not clear. And then sometimes we get what we get. But when you keep those communication lines open, you're gonna wind up coming up with something beautiful. So it sounds like that's what you've done.
Oh yeah. And my daughter, who really works hand and foot with me on a lot of the writing, not so much as the writing piece, but oh my God, she's so creative in everything that she does. And so when we put the books together, and especially because it's her daughter, it's gotta be perfect. Like she's like, no, Mom, we're not putting that out.
Right.
You got to do so and so, and I get it. I'm really impulsive, and she really is more of the other side. And because I'm like, let's get it out. It looks good to me. She's like, no.
Yeah, you need that. You need that.
You need a balance. Yeah,
you don't see.
You do.
Yep, you really need the balance. So,
one of the people asked about where can they get a copy of the book? One of our viewers asked that question.
Oh, so I have my own website. So Princess Callie Rain, because we wanted them in the hard copy and we wanted the quality of work that we have it on our website at almightyworks.com. They can order it there. One of the other things we're looking to do is have a drop shipment at Amazon so we can send the hard copies there. In fact, I have an interview with them. I think it's next week. I have to look at my calendar because I want to, like I said, do a drop shipment and have them ready and put them on Amazon. So, but if they wanted to,
who did you print the hardcover through?
So we did it through Alibaba.
Oh, okay.
Alibaba. And I tell you, the cost was really little, next to nothing. But you'll pay for shipping, but it still is much, much cheaper than if you bought a product like this here, and they go over the specs with you. They send you samples. I mean, this whole journey for me was new, but it was an eye-opening and an amazing process for me.
Wonderful. I do want to point out, because you did say your website is almightyworks.com, and I want to make sure that people know how to spell that. So I did put the link in the chat, but in case you missed it, it's ALMITEE works.com.
Yes, correct. And I chose that name when I chose my business. And if I have Almighty Works everywhere, I even have a Shopify store that sells t-shirts and hats and everything. Almighty Works, I love the Lord. I wanted to do a play on words. And so Almighty Works was just befitting for me to use that title.
What made you spell it that way?
Because I just didn't want to do the regular Almighty. I wanted to be different.
Okay.
And it was good because when I went to search the name, it wasn't being used.
That's true.
Yes. Let me tell you something. This is what I do all day. Now, I work full time, but my mind, ever since I was a little girl, just thinks of things all day long.
Right. That's a beautiful thing.
So what are your, the t-shirts and things that you have, are they related to the book? Or are they other messages on them?
They're more messages, be still and listen, but it still has the Almighty Work, a different Almighty Work logo. So it has a logo and it may say, be still and listen. One of the other things is success starts with a vision, goal, and work. Just more sayings, more positive sayings.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what do you? Go ahead. Go ahead, Rhonda. We do that quite often.
Yeah,
well, I was gonna ask about what with the potty training. do children who are older, who are already potty trained, how do they receive the book? Do they see themselves in the book? Do they think I'm already a big boy or big girl and I don't need to know about potty training? How do you encounter anything with that?
So I have had the older children read it, and I would say more around the ages of 7, 8, maybe. You know what's so funny? And I didn't even think about this when I was writing the book or the illustrations. Somebody said to me, one of the little girls said to me, as she was reading the book and going through the pictures, she said, "There's a princess that looks like me."
Right. Those are the
That's
conversations that we
beautiful.
need to have. I mean, little girls need to see themselves as princesses. And
Okay.
unfortunately, so many of them don't.
I said, absolutely, because guess what? You're a princess too.
Right.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
That's really
So
wonderful.
they have a different spin and a different take on
Uh-huh.
it's, but the good thing is it's reading, right? Because that's what we
Yes.
want at the end of the day. We want the kids to read because I feel like it's going by the wayside with these video games. So when we bring a book out that speaks to them, I think it's just amazing. Whether it's the words, whether it's the actions, whether it's the illustrations, if it makes them pick up a book, we did it. We did it.
Right. And
Yeah.
sometimes it can be a pleasant surprise in some ways how attentive children can be, even though one would think that the video game thing and the devices are making them distracted and with short attention spans. But they still are interested in stories and good stories.
Yeah.
We did a reading day at our church on Sunday to
Nice.
2 different groups, first grade through 5th. So it was the 8 o'clock service and the 11 o'clock service. And there were 3 of us authors who did it it was our first time doing a reading day. And the kids I was surprised at how attentive they were. The first group, it was like 40 kids. You know, that's a lot of kids. The 11 o'clock, there were 80 kids. So,
Wow.
but they were interested in the subject matter, and they, it was Q&A. They were attentive and
They were captivated, right?
They
And
were.
especially if you have a good storyteller. Oh,
Right. That's true. That's true. And each of us had our own book. So you're right. They will receive information if it's relevant and told to them in a way that makes it interesting to them.
that's right.
Something they can relate to.
Something engaging. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are your plans for your next venture with your book? Your one that's coming out. Is it Ada?
Ada's
Okay.
Greatest Adventure. I'm sorry, Adia's Greatest Adventure.
Okay.
So that's what I'm working on now. I really want to get it out there. But I have a passion for writing about healing for adults, healing trauma. I started writing this poem the other day, and I just told my daughter, I said, listen to this. She said, "Mommy, you have to finish that. You have to finish it.
You have to finish it of your baby saying it."
And I read it and I said, did I write that? It is just the first paragraph was like.
Yeah, sometimes we have to pat ourselves on the back,
Yeah.
I love
when we read our words, sometimes it's like, wow, that really sounds great.
It wasn't really more, it was more for me, like, I feel like because so many people go through so much trauma and they maybe they don't recognize it, maybe they do, but they don't heal from it. So they keep going into this vicious cycle of whatever it is that they're going through in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they can just take a minute and just step back and just, be by themselves, it would be so eye-opening, so such a revelation. And so the poem I wrote really speaks to I know this isn't really what this venue was about, but I just really wanted to give you guys the title of it.
Okay.
I could just thought it's in the title of it. Who would I be if I wasn't me? And I'm just going to do the quick paragraph. If I
Okay.
go back, if I go back in time and erase the things that were done to me, would it change my perception of who I am and who I was meant to be? I recognize the physical features like the coils in my dark brown hair, my chestnut brown eyes, and my full lips and my big brown thighs. I see the oblong shape that blesses my beautiful face, but knowing who I am at my core still hasn't taken shape. And, and it's more to that, but it was just so, I said, so many people know who they, what they see, but who are you on the inside? And if some things was changed, would you still be that person? So I'm going to finish that up. I'm hopefully I'll get to do a book of poetry. That's what I really like to do at the end of, all of this.
That's beautiful. I just love the title. The title actually says a lot without even reading the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many people who think they want to be somebody else, somebody famous, but they can only be themselves, and fame can be toxic and for a lot of people.
Yeah, but not even just fame. You think about little girls and boys who grew up fatherless. Think about little girls and boys who grew up fatherless, but their mother had to work all the time. Who molded them? Who let them, who gave them direction? Who mentored,
who shaped their worldview?
Right. Or if they grew up in an abusive home,
how
do you know who that person was going to be? If take the trauma away, who would that person be?
Right. I often, when I see a homeless person, and I look at them and I just wonder their story, how they got into that position. If they have family, who have they been in touch with them? I mean, you just wind up telling yourself an entire story. Everybody's not who you think they are when you first see them.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Well, remind people, because we're at the last couple of minutes.
I was about to say the same thing. You don't have us crying in here, so.
Really not my goal, but you know what? We're going to help them. We're going to help. I'm telling you, I know some good work about to happen.
Absolutely.
So tell people how they can get your books, and also how they can connect with you and follow you on social media if you're posting there and so forth.
So I have, again, my website is almightyworks.com. That's ALMITEE, 2 E's, works, WORKS.com. That's my site where the books are at, where my future books will be at. I also, now Crumpton is my maiden name, so I kind of use that a lot. That's who I want to be. That's who I am. But I am on Instagram. I have an Almighty Works website, but I also have Albacetti 88 on Instagram.
And that's shown on the screen.
I also have Facebook, which is Sabrina Crumpton. I also have a TikTok page, which is Sabrina Crumpton.
I'm gonna have to follow you on TikTok because that's starting to be my spot right now.
And I don't do it, girl. Let me tell you something. You be on there for like 3 hours. I'm like, am I still on TikTok?
For a whole TikTok channel, I'm doing it, so we'll just follow each other.
Okay.
Only thing I see on TikTok is what comes across my Facebook, those reels, and all of my stuff is related to cats. I'm a cat lover, so they'll have
probably like the cat
videos.
So it picks up your algorithm. So whatever you start to look at, it's going to keep.
It's going to keep showing. But I like it, and it's just so funny the things that they have on there. So, but it keeps it clean. Because it's not the weirdness or
yeah.
If
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
cats, it's not gonna be sexual content or weird stuff, or
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't take all of
keep
that.
it straight.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Mine is always, somebody talking about God and the message. So I love that. So it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, or fighting, or people, community
Right.
fights. But anyway, Sabrina, thank you so much for being a guest.
It was
And
a pleasure talking to you,
yeah,
ladies.
and good luck and much success with your book, your potty
Thank
train book.
you.
I can
Thank
potty
you
train
so
to
much.
Valley Ring. This is so
It
cute.
was, it was really great talking with you. I love your spirit. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep letting the kids motivate you and inspire you. And you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You guys too. Be safe.
Okay,
You
you
too.
too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so our before we bring on our next guest, I want to announce the winner of the book is Tony Benita, who watches the show almost every week. So Tony, you will be getting your copy of the Marilyn Monroe book, Once in a Lifetime. And the answer was Paris. So you answered it correctly. And Rhonda's just going to tell us she has an event coming up. She canceled her weekend event that I actually was planning to come to, but then she created a social hour. You tell us what it's about and the dates for people who live in the DMV.
Yes, if you live in the DMV, we need you to come on out February 18th. We will be doing a Black History Month happy hour. We'll be featuring a number of DMV authors, and we're going to do interviews. We're going to have prizes. We even got a couple of sponsors. District Donuts is actually coming out, and they're going to be giving out donuts. I know they called us. I was like, okay, yeah, we want you to come out.
Hey.
So yeah, so this is going to be a really fun event. Like I said, it's a happy hour, it's a social hour. So come out. You can network, you can meet the authors, you can get some books, and just have a good time. And that's what it's going to be all about. That'll be February 18th at 6 p.m. at this beautiful restaurant in DC called Swahili Village. It's actually a Kenyan restaurant. The food is delicious. It was the first time I'd ever had goat.
Okay.
But it was good. It was good. So that's February 18th, 6 p.m. at Swahili Village. It is the Black History Month happy hour. You can get your tickets on Eventbrite. Just search for Black History Month happy hour.
Okay. So that's wonderful. And when you have your event next year, I am planning to come.
And
so
I will
your weekend. Okay. And for the book festival, we are going to have it in person this year, assuming things continue to get better as they have, or tolerable, we're just waiting on the final details from the venue, and we'll open our registration because we've had a lot of interest as people haven't been able to go anywhere for 2 years. And so people are very, very excited about attending in person this year. So our next guest is Nathan Evans Jr. And he has a book called I Love You, Letters of Love from Black Men to Black Boys.
Okay.
And we are going to find out what inspired him to write the book and what the content of the book is. And Nate, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Now, show us a copy of your book. Do you have it?
Yep, right here.
Okay. Now, what inspired your, is that you?
Is that you?
That's not me.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
And I'll tell a story behind this too, but that's not me.
Okay, well, tell us the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So this book was inspired in 2019. Me and my wife, we went to a conference in DC, a mental health conference for Black professionals. Mm-hmm. And we went to this conference. Really, I wanted to go was to seek out resources to kind of bring back to my home here in New Jersey to provide to the community, to the youth. I do a lot of work in schools with speaking and workshops and things like that. So I was very interested. And we ended up going to this conference in Washington, D.C. And it blew my mind, first and foremost, to see that many Black mental health professionals. I remember sitting at brunch with a young brain surgeon who was a Black woman. I was there with psychologists, therapists, all of these different individuals. And when I first, like, if you've ever been to any type of professional conference, there's different sessions that you go to. So my wife went to one session and I went to another session with a guy named Dr. Michael Lindsay. And it was titled like Man Up or something like that. And it was like a real talk about men and mental health and also boys. And one of the things that he said when he started his presentation, he said, love Black men and children as if they've never been hated. And when he said that, I was like, oh my goodness, like it hit me really hard. I'm looking around the room like, did anybody else hear that? Like it really spoke to me. And I remember leaving that conference so inspired, looking to figure out like, okay, what's my next step? What can I do? Now I'm not a licensed therapist or anything like that. So I knew that I couldn't provide in that way, but I'm someone who loves literature. I love to write. I'm very creative. So I prayed on it and I began writing. And I felt like God placed it on my heart to say, I love you. Like that was the theme I took away from that conference was I love you. And I was like, all right, that's a weird title for a book. I'm not going to do that. So I kind of pushed against it for a while. And I ended up kind of landing on it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick with this thing. I love you. And I'm going to see what happens. And the idea originally was to write, 60, 70 letters from myself to young Black boys in the community. That was the idea. I was going to write these letters of love, affirmation, and really build them up. And I got about 3 letters in and I was like, all right, that's a lot of letters. That's a lot of letters. I got 3 letters in. I said, that's a lot of letters. So I made some phone calls and I had this idea to reach out to other Black men, right? From just different backgrounds. Some were raised by a single mother. Some had both parents. Some grew up in rough conditions. Some grew up in the suburbs. Some are, entrepreneurs, real estate, educational professionals. I reached out to 12 other men that I knew within my network. And I was kind of nervous at first to pitch the idea to them, but they all agreed to do it. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. So fast forward, that was 2019. We began working on the book almost a year later. And 2020 February, we jump on a Zoom call and I'm telling them the idea of the book, the thematic and all these different things. And shortly after that, as we know, March happened and the pandemic hit. Mm-hmm. And I remember like, man, this is insane. And then shortly after that, you get Ahmaud Arbery, you get George Floyd, you get all of this type of like racial tension against like Black men or Black people in general, but we see Black men being murdered in the street. And I remember just thinking back to the conference the year prior when I said yes to pretty much writing this project to affirm Black men and boys, to tell us we're worthy, to tell us that we're loved, to pour into us, right? To see 2020 happen the way it did, I was like, this was nothing but God's plan. Like he knew this was going to happen. I had no idea 2020 was going to come out the way it was. So we get there, we write the book, we're trying to finish it out. And the last thing is the cover. And during that time, a very close friend of mine, he's a great photographer. He was taking pictures of all of the kind of like the protests and things like that. And he was posting these pictures on Facebook. And I was like, man, these pictures got like stories behind them. And again, I had another bright idea. I reached out to him. I said, look, I got this idea, bro, where I want to kind of stage a protest for the love of Black men and boys. And he was so excited about it. So I'll do it. And I was like, really? That don't sound too far-fetched for you? But he agreed to do it. We met on the street that I was raised on, where my pop-up lived, Cedar Lane out here in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And I had 20 men that I called, 25 men that I called, said, hey, wear Black t-shirts. I drew up a bunch of signs. If you look close at the cover, you'll see you'll see guys holding signs. I made them and they say, Black boys are smart. Black boys are handsome. Black boys are intelligent. Black boys are great. Like all these different things. I wrote just different affirmations on all of these different signs. And what we did, we went out there, we did a photo shoot on the street and we literally were marching down the street screaming, I love you. I love you. And he just took photos. And I was like, I don't want to make this book the focus on me. Like, I know I wrote this book and I'm a big contributor to this and it's my project, but I need it to be bigger than me. So even in choosing the photos that he did, I decided to choose this one because to me, it spoke the most to the mission of the book, which was to, again, write letters of love, letters of love from Black men to Black boys, and to affirm them and to let them know that they're worthy. So even if you look close at the cover, you'll see these guys kind of like screaming, fist up, really going in with it. And it was funny because there was an older gentleman who walked out of his home while we were out there. And I thought that we were just kind of like disturbing the peace because we were loud. So I'm like, I apologize, sir. And he was like, no, I love to see this. I love to see brothers. I love to see Black men together, just doing something positive. And in that moment, that was affirmation. Shortly after that, we put the book out with this cover. And in a few months, it went to bestseller on Amazon. Wonderful. And it's been making an impact ever since. It's been a huge, huge just impact and difference in the lives of so many men and boys from, you got first graders. I'm going to go read in the school next week with a few middle school kids, to prisons. People have sent this to their loved ones, to their nephews, to their uncles, to their fathers. And that was, again, just for me saying yes and really having a mission and looking to do my part. And it just happened to come out in a book form.
That's amazing, first of all. A very amazing story that you were able to go from not even a concept, just kind of an idea of something that you wanted to do, all the way to executing it. So yes. I know you may have had some bumps along the way. You may have talked to some people like, man, I'm not doing that, or that's too much. Did you ever find anybody who said that as you were approaching them? Or did it seem like everybody was kind of on board with this, which I really hope that was the case?
So it was somewhat the case, but at the same time, there were people that kind of like brushed it off when I originally had the idea. And I've been used to that, because people don't really believe in anything until you execute on it. Yes, so in the very early stages in 2019, when I had the vision and I was like, this is what it's going to be, that thing didn't manifest until 2020 of like March, April, when we really put it together. So it was one of those things where it's like, oh, that's a great idea. That's cool. That's dope, bro. And it was kind of, that was it. And that was the energy I was getting. But yeah, once I pushed through on it, obviously those individuals came back and was like, I knew this was going to be, this is crazy. And it just, it kind of is what it is.
They want to see if you're going to actually do it before they move.
Yeah, before they support, before they move on anything, they want to make sure you're going to do it. But I was very determined to get this out because I knew that it wasn't about creating a book or book sales. It was, lives on the line. You know what I mean? There was people that actually needed what I was creating. And I was doing them a disservice if I did not produce this.
Wonderful.
How do you have the book organized? Like, is it by subject? Is it just, how is it put together?
Yeah, so the book starts out and it's really good because I made it in a way where parents can read it, guardians, educators, women. I made the beginning of the book kind of like an introduction into love. And I broke love down into an acronym, which is listen, be open-hearted, validate, and encourage. And the way I broke it down was, this is how, I've experienced the most impact with engaging with Black men and boys, was to use this love approach. So I literally broke it down into like lessons on like, hey, this is listen. This is the practical ways to listen. These are the effective ways. This is what being open-hearted is about. This is what validation looks like. And I went through that whole process. And then after that, I put a word in it from the scripture that says, the way of love. It talks about love is patient, love is kind. And from there, it went right into the letters from each guy. So each guy wrote between 2 to 5 letters. I did 5 max because I didn't want to oversaturate it with just a million letters. But I wanted it to have different perspectives, right? Because we have different backgrounds. So you have the beginning of the book, which kind of explains those pillars of love and very applicable steps for any type of parent, guardian, educator, leader. You can literally apply these principles anywhere. And then from there, it goes right into the affirmations for the young men and boys. And it's powerful because you can see just how different each author is in the book with their perspectives and the lessons that they share. It's really beautiful.
Why? And this is going to sound like a strange question, but why do you care so much? What is it that made you feel like this is my calling? I know it had to be more than what you heard when you went to that event back in 2019. So what is it about this experience that makes you just care and want makes you want to spread the word the way you do?
Yeah, for me, I'm really speaking to myself, if that makes sense. So the younger version of myself, this is something that I would have needed. And I've been on a mission to provide resources and create different things that I would have given to the adolescent Nate, the teenage Nate, even the early 20s Nate. And that was the initial, mission of all of this, because the work goes far beyond just this book. But I grew up in a way, 9 different schools from first grade to high school.
Yes.
Was molested as a young kid, went through all types of trauma, and I hid a lot of my pain in sports, as young men usually do. And I didn't talk about it a lot. I just carried a lot of weight on me. And shortly after that, I graduated high school, happened to be a first generation high school graduate, as well as college graduate, which was great. But there's also a lot of burden being that type of trailblazer. And I remember for a long time struggling with self-worth, with different insecurities, with mental health issues, with really crippling anxiety and things like that. And I'm obviously on the other side of that. And because I'm on the other side, I want to be able to provide those resources for somebody that's just like me, because I know that my story, while it's my story, it's not extremely unique, if that makes sense. And I know that there's probably millions of other young men out there just like myself who can benefit from these resources. So that's what kind of started the mission. And the love aspect was really important to me, because while I received love, from my parents and things as I was younger, it wasn't, I guess, deep enough in substance. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, we love you because we're your parents. But I believe love has to be shown also through actions, and I think that that's the most important thing. And that's, again, why I broke it down into those 4 steps, because it's like actions need to be in place. So that's kind of how the entire mission was birthed. And God put me on this path to focus on this, because honestly, before this book, I had wrote, another book, but that was really for me explaining my college journey and how I got through my mental health challenges. And I would use that book at a lot of like PWIs when I would go speak. And then he's like, look, I need you to talk directly, specifically to Black men and boys. Like, don't try to generalize it. Don't try to make it, all these different things. Like, be very specific, because I was fighting back and forth even with the title. I'm like, letters of love, maybe from colored men to colored boys. He's like, no. I need you to be very specific with this. And I listened to that, and that's where I've been.
Beautiful.
Is there a particular age that the book is targeting? An age group? Age range?
It's not it's not specific to any age range. The most, I guess, popular age range is young teenagers. So I would say 14 and under. But there are quite a few, adults that have the book. And you'd be surprised, more women buy and read the book than men do. A lot of women read this book.
Do you think that it's because they're wanting to connect with their sons or husbands or even nephews or what have you?
Yeah, I truly believe that. I believe that it's a way to kind of look in and gain a perspective of maybe how we think, how we feel. And it's a conversation starter. A lot of times as men, we don't talk a lot about our feelings and the things we're going through. We kind of keep it, like I said, bottled up before. So the fact that we have 13 men being vulnerable and transparent in this book is kind of like, oh, okay, I understand a little bit more. I can empathize more. I know how to be of better support, so I think that that's one of the main things. And then a lot of women have, they have teenage sons, they have younger sons, and they're looking to get them mentors, and they're just happen to blessed to get 13 mentors when they pick this book up.
Well, this kind of touches me because I read a meme on Facebook a couple days ago, or it might have been Instagram, one of those. But basically, they said that they didn't feel that Black men, we as a society do not make it safe for Black men to express how they feel. Yeah, and I don't know if, did you see that one?
Yeah, I saw that one.
And they talked about how society laughed at certain celebrities when they came out and said that they were upset about something or heard about something, and instead of giving them empathy, we laughed at them. Well, not me, but them other people. But we laughed at them. Do you feel that? Have you seen that to be the case? And do you think that this book can be part of the answer to that.
Yes, I definitely seen that, and especially the meme you're talking about. I believe it was like Will Smith,
Yeah, that's the one.
Kanye West, and like Tyrese, and
Mhm.
they were exploited on their most like public breakdown moments. And instead of like checking on them, let's get them some help. It was kind of like, let's make fun of them. Let's talk about how weak they are, how crazy they are, and these different things. And for a lot of men that I talk to, they suffer in silence because they don't want to be a burden to maybe their spouse, but they also don't want to be looked at as less than or weak, especially when, they feel like their role is to just be the provider, to be the protector. They don't want to be seen in that light. And I'm just here to tell, if any men are listening, one of the strongest things we can do is to be transparent and vulnerable,
Yes.
to ask for the help. I had to learn that the hard way through having breakdowns and things like that. And that's really one of the strongest things we can do. When we hold it in, that's the easy thing to do. And I think when you got to push against that, and you have to be very intentional about your healing and your growth and your mental clarity and things like that, that's the real work, and that requires real strength. And I believe that this book is one, a resource in that aspect, but also an invitation to just healing in a sense. And I believe that through these letters, through these men being transparent, these men who provide for their families, these men who have great careers, these men who are, amazing public figures and just doing the right things in their community. I think that if more of us step up and kind of speak about this, I believe more men will begin to open up, sooner, because a lot of times they open up too late when they're already broken down or worn out. I mean, you can even look at men who, say if someone's in a relationship and they're older, usually it's the man who's like broken down physically first,
Mhm.
because it's just so much stress over the years and beat down, and they don't want to talk about it. I mean, I come from that kind of lineage as well, where, my grandpa didn't talk about a lot of things. You keep it bottled in. And then God forbid somebody has an explosion moment, and it's like, where did that come from? It's like, oh, that's been 20 years of him just holding it in. And we thought he was fine. And I believe that even the saying, I'm fine has killed more Black men than almost anything.
Oh, absolutely. Black women too.
Yeah.
Black women too. Oh yeah, for sure.
Like we have to be
Sure.
strong all the time, because if we
Yeah.
show a little bit of emotion, all of a sudden we're weak, we're made fun of, or
Yeah.
we care too much, or we're crazy,
Yeah. No. I agree. I agree 1,000%. And I believe, again, for both Black men and women, that is a conversation that needs to continue, but we need to continue to create safe spaces as well, because like you said, women, just like men are suffering, women are going through it as well. I mean, we just seen the young lady, Miss USA.
Yes.
We thought she was on the top of the world.
Mhm.
And, who knew she was going through what she was going through, for her to jump off of a building. And I believe that we need to be more kind to each other. Social media has made people very,
Me.
mean, for lack of better terms, mean. And a lot of people are afraid to speak up. I go to these schools and kids will pull me to the side, and it's like they don't feel comfortable almost being themselves or opening up or saying when they're in pain. And it's very unfortunate and sad. And I believe that we have to continue to be transparent, and we can change that over time. I mean, that's the mission, and it's going to take all of us. But I think the more and more we do it, the more and more we create these safe spaces, the more we share our stories that we've healed from, the more other individuals will want to start doing the same.
Yeah. What's the age range of the people who contributed to the book? Not necessarily specific, like the number, but generationally, do you have like cross generations represented?
Yeah, I think most are Gen Z. I mean, not Gen Z, most are millennials. And then what is it before? What was it? Gen X? I think before us.
Yeah, I'm Generation X.
So yeah, we have Gen X and we have millennials for the most
Okay.
part. That's the age range of the book, which also, again, makes it very interesting when you read it, because there's something that speaks to everybody. And there's you can just see the tones of different people and the age ranges and things like that. So I think it's beautiful.
Well, Kelly Walker Edwards said that she feels that your book can benefit all ages. So I think
I agree.
she's with you.
I agree.
Yeah,
And
because
she also says thank you for your transparency.
yes.
yeah, so I appreciate it.
And Tony Bonita says that this will make a great birthday or Father's Day gift.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people actually bought it for their fathers last year, which I thought was really cool. Again, it was something I didn't think would ever happen. It was never on my radar. But to see that happen and to see people gift it as an actual gift of substance, and then also have those men kind of reach back out, like, man, I really love this. I appreciate this. That really warmed my heart and let me know that I'm on the right path for what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Well, we only have 5 minutes left, unfortunately. I don't know how it goes so quickly.
Yeah, I have a question about, and I want to express this carefully. There are a lot of our young men killing each other. It's like an unspoken tragic thing that's happening that nobody wants to really talk about. What do you think can be done to, because it starts with not loving yourself and then not loving others and not seeing them as valued and yourself as valued. How can we, what can be done? I know it's a huge problem, but what do you think we can do to address it? Or maybe your book can help if some of those young people will read, you know.
Yeah. That's the
Reach
interesting
them.
part.
How do you reach them?
Yeah, so a lot of them, they won't read. I've actually had some young men who I've given the book to. This, I don't read, and then when you kind of love on them a little bit, you look back and they are reading. But we did make this into an audio version as well, and make it into an audio experience so they can listen. But as you talk about that, because I know our city out here in Atlantic City, that's a big struggle with, just young men killing each other. I believe it starts with affirmation. Really affirming the positive things about them, because they know we're going to point out the negative things. Now, that's not going to fix everything, but I believe it starts with that affirmation and like love, because they're going to seek it in all the wrong places. I heard once that people who need love the most ask for it in the most unloving way. And that's all their actions are.
That's
it's
deep.
really that's all their actions are, is really seeking validation. Now, it's for the wrong reasons and it's hurting people and things like that, but they're seeking approval. If we can get to a point where we're validating them and we're approving them and we're pointing out the things they're doing great and we're providing them resources, we can slowly start to see those numbers dwindle down. And I have a few guys, and we're doing that now through different mentor groups and things like that. But they need consistency. They need people showing up, who look like them, other men, of course, and really just affirming them. A lot of times when they see other men, it is to try to almost scare them straight. They put them through them different programs. They try to scare them straight. They try to bring these people in and tell them, like, you're doing this wrong. You're doing that wrong. You need to get it together. And it's like, they already know that.
They need the reinforcement.
They need
somebody who's going to say, this is what you can aspire to. And not, if you keep doing this, you're going to end up here. And then next thing you know, you're right. I'm going to end up here.
I'm going to end up there.
You want to put that reinforcement in there.
Yes. But if I continue to love on you and I continue to tell you these great things and I continue to affirm you, I'm not accepting all of your behaviors, but I am telling you, like, hey, man, look, I noticed this about you. You got some crazy potential to do this. I think you really need to look into this, man. Look, I'll even get somebody here you can talk to, like, really start to invest them. I think a lot of times people see them, their demeanor, they see the hoodies, they see the jeans, and they just turn around. They don't give them the time of day. So they already feel some type of way about that. But if you're going to approach them strong and really love on them, I believe we can make a difference.
So you mentioned earlier that you've been approaching the schools and organizations with your book. What do you have planned? I know you have an event tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, so tomorrow I have another podcast and then some work in Philly. Next week, I'll be reading my book actually to some middle schoolers. But what I'm doing with the book, the next step, the way I've written it, I didn't realize I'm actually going to turn it into a curriculum to work with counselors and parents as well. So I did a parent workshop over the weekend, 2 of them, where I taught principles from the book. And I was like, okay, this is actually going to be really effective. So the next step is to take this just from a book that will sit on your shelf to something that we can actually apply and utilize in our communities and in our schools. I think that's going to be the next biggest step right there for me.
I like the
Awesome.
idea of the audio book. Are
Yes.
there different men's voices reading?
So it was supposed to be different men's voices reading, but no, it's just my reading voice, which is pretty soothing anyway. I worked with my guy who does production, and we sat in there for an entire day, and he beat me down, so the audio sounded great. And but it's just me reading, but I am reading all of the letters, and we made it into, we call it an audio experience. So we don't even call it an audio book. It's just an audio experience, and it's actually on like iTunes, iTunes, Spotify. Like it's like a music album almost.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we are out of time, unfortunately. But I did put your links in the chat. What is it? iloveyoubooks.com. And
Yes.
I had another link as well. But do you want people to go to iloveyoubooks.com?
Yeah, they can go there, or they can go right to my site, nateevansjr.com. We just updated the site actually today. Wow. We just updated it today, and it has the links for all of the books and resources on there.
Okay, wonderful. Well, keep up the good work, and thank you for turning your passion into something that can be helpful and you can actually transfer to others, and getting other people involved. That's really great.
Yes, yes.
And congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Have a great night.
You do the same.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we have our next guest coming up. I believe this is her, even though the name in the waiting room is not her name. It's a man's name, but we'll see. It should be Meredith McKinney. So it says George McFarland, but this is the time slot that she was supposed to be in. So Meredith, turn on your mic so we can hear you, and welcome back.
I am. Hello.
Hello. I wasn't sure it was you, but because it was the time slot, I said, well, I guess this is Meredith. And welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV, because you were on in June and you were talking about your Black Book Project in Nashville and all the books that you were collecting. So just give us, for those who didn't see you before, give us some background on what the Black Book Project is all about.
So again, hello everyone. My name is Meredith McKinney, and I currently live in Nashville, Tennessee. And I launched the Black Book Project in Nashville, and it was an effort to increase representation. So I sit on the board of directors for a nonprofit here locally called Book 'Em, and they provide free books for children that live in economically challenging circumstances. And so they provide free books in the community, in the general community, to these children. And the vast majority of the children that they served were African-American children, yet they gave away 0 to no books of books that represented African-Americans and had African-American characters. So I launched the Black Book Project in effort to increase representation upon Book 'Em's inventory in their nonprofit, and also to be able to have children in Nashville be fully represented in the literature that they read, because it is so very important for them to be able to see themselves in literature.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. We were just having this conversation a little earlier, and even with the first guest as well, that often our young kids don't see themselves as anything more than what their circumstances are. They don't believe they can
Absolutely.
be princesses. They don't believe they can be kings. They can be leaders. And so we do need to have more books that focus on what they can do, or what their possibilities are.
Absolutely. And also that, that self-esteem piece, for little, Black girls, I can say that, growing up, going to a predominantly white school, like they would look at my hair and just be like, how does your hair do that? And the stigma around Black hair and what's professional and what's not professional, and just instilling in young children at an early age that their hair grows out of their scalp exactly the way it's supposed to.
Yes.
And that is beautiful texture of curly, kinky hair. And it's
Yes.
beautiful. And we need to embrace that and instill that in children at a very early age while seeing themselves in pictures, in books, and in magazines. When I was growing up, they were non-existent. I couldn't see myself in anything. And I remember taking crayons and coloring pictures in books brown because it just there weren't any. And so I thought to myself, you know, in this position, as I sit on the board, like I have an opportunity to really make a difference, and I want to be impactful in my time and serving on the board. And I want to do something that's going to leave a mark and leave for the next person that sits on the board to continue the legacy of providing diversity and being able to get books and being able to really rally the community around supporting the need to increase representation among literature.
All right, now.
This
I
seems to
remember
be
the
a
first
universal
one.
problem.
Yeah, I remember
Seems
the
to be a
first one.
universal nationwide
afro.
problem.
Yes, I remember that. I like it's so interesting, like seeing books now with girls of hair that look like mine. I'm like, yes, like that just wasn't a thing, and really trying to instill that they are beautiful just the way that they are, while also increasing literacy and promoting literacy at the same time. So that's really the ultimate goal, is for them to be able to see themselves and be able to dream and see different Black women and men in different professions and different career paths, and know that that is something that they can attain. So being able to see themselves is huge.
Wonderful.
It's amazing how the hair thing it's never going to go away.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be a challenging issue. One thing that's really good now is that you have a lot more different hairstyles, hair options. You know,
Yes.
you can do braids, you can do cornrows, you can do you just your natural hair, you can cut it short, you can wear it long natural, you can, you know, some
Dreads.
people are still doing
Yep.
well, you can do locks, and they got all different kinds of locks,
Mhm.
sister locks, and I don't know all the different
Sister
ones.
locks.
And,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
then you can also, the wigs are now really nice. You know, the
Yes.
wigs used to be for old people.
Yep.
But
Now they get some nice wigs.
they have some nice wigs that really look
nice
like real
wigs.
hair. I mean, really
do.
styled. I'm just saying, they used to be for old people.
They do.
And the
They do.
styles used to be old styles, you know, but now they are
Right.
really, it's a variety. So you can really do so many different things with your hair. And I was watching, and even now white people are getting cornrows, which I don't know how I feel about it, but I guess, you know, if they want to do that with their hair, feel free. I just,
Mhm. Mhm.
but that's something that wasn't happening back in the day. It was not. It never happened.
Right.
So, but now it's, you know, I look at Project Runway. I really look at it for the fashions. And they
Right.
had one
Right.
episode recently where the theme was hair. They had different hair professionals, and the models
Mhm.
got their hair done in all different kinds of styles. The Black ones had just a variety of styles, but then the white ones had, it just looked kind of funny on them. But the way you had ponytail, like 10 ponytails on one person's head, it works with our hair, because, you know, but with their hair, it just kind of didn't.
Yes.
There was actually a picture like that once. It was like 9 women. They put traditionally Black hairstyles on them. Like they put
Yes.
one in cornrows, one in finger waves.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
It was a good episode. And that episode, the Black woman who was one of the finalists, she won that particular episode because she made an outfit, and that really just spoke to the ethnicity and all the creative. She had like an animal print it was just really nice. So anyway, but the whole hair thing, it's still with little girls and grown people. It's just as I don't even know the word to use. but it's the same kind of issues with the workplace, and does your hair look professional if it's a certain style, and
It's
people are still dealing with that.
an ongoing struggle.
Yeah, it's
Yep, it's
still.
an ongoing struggle,
And as
even
you
in
move up, and
2022.
like if you're in corporate, or you move up, you're expected to have a certain look, and but it's
Mhm.
gotten more flexible as
Yes, I think
time.
it's being embraced a little more. I
Mhm,
do believe
it
that
is.
it's gotten a little better. We still have a long way to go,
We
but
do.
it's better.
It has gotten better.
Well, yeah, I noticed you said that your goal is to raise 2,000 or to collect 2,000 books by the end of February.
Yeah, so 2,000 books of Black characters written by Black authors. You guys, I have had so many authors reach out from across the country. Like, hey, I saw the News Channel 5 story. Hey, I saw this on Facebook. Somebody shared it. I saw this on Instagram. I mean, from Washington, D.C., North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. I mean, you name it. Like, someone has reached out and said, hey, I saw it. I want to support you. How many books? And most are asking, how many books do you want? Not just
Okay.
I'm making. It's like, how many do you need? How many do you want?
Does it look like you're on track to surpass?
So yes.
Awesome.
So currently we have a little over 1,000 currently.
Okay.
And the goal is 2,000. So really we're on the journey to 2K. And so I am super excited about all the support that I've gotten from the Nashville community and beyond that have supported this mission. I'm telling you all, it has been unbelievable. Just yesterday, I was able to receive a check on the behalf of the Black Book Project from Pinnacle Financial Partners. They donated $1,000 to the Black Book Project. And so it was this big thing, and it was wonderful because they really were embracing the vision and the goal of this project. And it's February, it's Black History Month, it's all about diversity and inclusion, and it has just been a remarkable journey to be on, while embracing the idea that so many people can get behind a dream of mine to really be able to move this thing and push it forward. It's just amazing. Like, I just sometimes I sit back, like, everybody understands that we need Black literature. Everyone knows that. Like, it just wasn't really brought to the forefront, like, hey, listen, this is an intentional effort to collect these books. And I think once that ground was kind of laid, then everybody was like, oh, jumping on board, yes, let's do it. And so,
well, Kelly Walker Edwards asked how she can donate books, and I went ahead and put your Black Book Project wish list into the chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we've gotten, so guys, two companies have partnered with us to help as a part of their Black history, like inclusion and diversity project. They have joined on the Black Book Project to help collect books. And so I definitely, to answer your question, I think it will be well over 2,000. And that's just I'm being, hopeful and optimistic. But I'm really encouraged by the level of support that we've received so far, in hopes that it will continue. And so I appreciate and thank all of the Black authors that really have supported this, project. It has been absolutely remarkable. So thank you all so much.
Now, are you ending your efforts at the end of February?
So no, I am not. So the Black Book Project, so the big push is to, of course, for Black History Month, to try to get as many books into the hands of African-American children in honor of Black History Month. But the project continues because most of the books that are in Bookham's inventory are books that were donated to the organization. And you just don't have a lot of Black books that are donated, specifically because of cost, and also accessibility. So there's just not a lot of them. And it's so interesting because even though I look at Black authors and I'm into books and who wrote what, only 12% of children's books that are published contain African-American characters, Black characters. And so while it seems like there's a lot of books, we still have a very long way to go. And so a lot of the books are repeats of books that I'm seeing over and over again, which is amazing. So I say all that to say it will continue throughout the year. The drive is just in February, but the need for diversity in literature continues all year. So we have had an overwhelming response last year. Even after the project ended, we received at least almost 300 or so books after the project had ended. So yes, we are really encouraging people to continue to support as they can, to really be able to get a good inventory stock of books that are African American.
And how do you plan to distribute the books? I think you may have mentioned.
So there are numerous ways that we did it last year. So we did a couple of schools, and we did a distribution where the children were able to come out and select the book, take pictures with the book. And so being able to self-select was a really big part of this process, because of course, I want them to have ownership of that book and really want it. And so they self-selected. And then at that point, I did nonprofits, churches, schools, and so there's also a stash that's held at Bookham for just, to have, because they have other organizations that Bookham partners with that has a need. After school programs and other nonprofits reach out, because Bookham is the hub of books in Nashville. So if Nashville has free books that are being accessible for children, Bookham has them. So they are trying to keep an inventory of books for the request. And they get it all the time and just don't have enough to fulfill those requests.
Wonderful.
Okay. I do want to make you aware of it's an event or a project that you may want to connect with. She was on the show, I want to say a month ago or so. 2 people were on the show. It was Black Children Book Week. And Black Children's Book Week is the week after Black History Month is over, because she thought her goal was to extend the time where Black books are talked about. But if you go to Facebook and just type in Black Children's Book Week, they're doing events from all over the world. It's like a hub of things that are happening that week all over the world related to Black children's books. So
I love it. I love it. And this has been remarkable, guys. And so ladies, the people that donate, the authors that donate, considerable amount of books, I also interview them and just ask the why, the how did you get started, the why do you feel the need for representation, when did you know you wanted to write a children's book, just to really try to get them out there as well, because they've been so gracious in donating large amounts of books. And so I'm really trying to pay it forward, and really try to get them out there and try to get them some support around their book too. So, and you all have been just absolutely remarkable. And so I appreciate what you all do. It is so valuable. And I could have never imagined that we would be in a position where we have the opportunity to really connect and network and get and meet people and be able to spread the wealth and love and knowledge around Black literature.
you froze up a little bit, but I heard the Black literature part, and that is true. That is true. We are finally, we're in a position, but we also are taking creative control with using the technology that has become available. And because things don't happen, they have to be done intentionally. And that was something that we wanted to do. Now, when we started the show, we really, and I can't speak for Rhonda, but I speak for myself, we really didn't know how it was going to be received. And we didn't know how long it would last. We just said, well, let's do this. And it is really taken on a life of its own.
Oh, it has.
I love it.
It really has.
It really has. So we'll be celebrating.
I love it.
Amazing that, people continue to support the authors and the literary professionals such as yourself who comes on the show. We get calls, who was so on the show when such and such time. And I think most people who come on the show, people will order their books while they're talking, which I think is
right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
It's amazing. Like it's
Yeah.
just amazing. The power of social media and the influence is amazing.
it has been very gratifying and rewarding. And you know, I personally didn't know all the stuff that was happening. You know, because of this show, I get to learn and share and
Yep.
about
Yep.
all these things that are happening, like your Black Book Project. I probably would not have known about this project if it weren't for the show. I might have eventually heard about it somewhere, but and you know, our intention is to just be where people can always go and be up to date on things that are happening. We've interviewed several Black bookstore owners over the course of the last year. So, and these were new bookstores, except for I think two were established, but we had about 5 that were new in different cities. People have opened, they have different concepts. So
Wow.
things are, you know, things kind of shut down when COVID first hit. And
Right.
but now people are making moves again. You know, they're
Yep.
being intentional and stepping out on faith and being creative about how to do it. You know, you don't have to invest in a ton of overhead. You can, you know, people are doing pop-up shops and, you know, things that move
Yep.
around. They're, you
Yep.
know, they don't have the overhead, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
they're
That's what gets you. Yeah.
very creative.
Totally
So-
get it. But
so-
yes, but if any,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, I was just saying that I don't know you all, I might have cut out, but I was just saying, you know, I appreciate you all's work. It's because of you all that we are able to, you know, network and be able to share what's happening from state to state. I mean, across the country, people are still looped in to what's happening. And so I'm super excited and thankful for what you all do. So a sincere thank you. Thank you for having me again. I enjoyed myself so much when I was speaking with you all, when I spoke with you all ladies last year. It was great. So I really appreciate your support. And I am open and willing to, you know, at any point in time, I'm going to continue to do this. So I'm going to come back. Hopefully I can get to come back next year, ladies. I love you all. Get to come back next year and share the success story, because we're going to exceed the 2000. So I cannot wait to share the success story behind.
How you're going to exceed that 2000.
Oh yes,
Right.
I'm confident and I'm excited about it, and I can't wait to share it with you all.
Question about the books that you're collecting. Are you only collecting brand new books, or can they be gently used?
Gently used are wonderful. I've received several hundred gently used, and so that is an absolute yes. Just as long as no, you know, ripped and torn pages, definitely gently used.
Yes.
Then absolutely, then that's totally fine.
And what's the age range? Did you tell us that?
So
I know you told us
it's
last time, I think, but I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Yes, so it's kindergarten, ideally through middle school. Once they get to high school, it's kind of hard to find appropriate books that once they get in that age range that have that are, you know, well, I struggle with that with high school because it's so touchy, because some of the books I feel like, I don't know if I would want my high school to read some of those books. And so I struggle to find some that are age appropriate for high school. So we typically do elementary and middle, and really more so elementary, because I'm really trying to instill the joy of reading at an early age, so that it will continue and matriculate through as they go through school. So ideally elementary and middle, but if there are some appropriate books by Black authors for middle school, we welcome those as well.
Okay. And I understand what you're saying about high school, because what's appropriate for a high schooler is not the same for every person, you know, every adult. And then high schoolers read things that their parents don't know about, and I can say that with conviction because I did. So I was an avid reader. I went to the library. I ordered books by mail. That was, you know, the stuff would arrive. And so I read, what was I? I was like in 9th and 10th grade when I was reading Iceberg Slim's books, Donald Goins and you know, street life. And I didn't know anything about that. And I thought it was fictional. I mean, I had no idea people actually lived like that until I was a grown woman.
Live like that.
I thought it was just made up stories.
Yep.
So, you know, but I loved
Absolutely.
reading.
Absolutely.
I loved reading. Just I read everything I could
Yep.
get my hands on. And, you know, some of it when you're a teenager, part of the, you know, reading something your parents don't know about is kind of fun. So I'm not, you know, I
Right.
don't have any high schools watching the
I
shows.
I
I'm not
read whatever. The librarians knew me. They knew my face. They knew my name when I walked in because I was always in the library. But
Yeah, me
unfortunately, I
too.
will say though that we didn't have social media back then.
No.
Right.
You know, a lot of the things that are competing for people's attention now, we didn't have it back then. But the good part is that technology is so great. I was talking with a teacher friend of mine, one of my sorority sisters, and she mentioned that a lot of her students like to read Wattpad. Basically, it's reading little episode stories on the computer, and they get mad when that episode isn't loaded in a timely basis, in a timely manner. So they are reading. Their reading just looks a little different.
It just looks different. It just looks different.
I don't even know what
And for
Wattpad
high school,
is. I don't know what it is. What is it? Rhonda, what is Wattpad? Or whatever you said. Yeah.
Well, it's
what is
basically kind of almost a lower version of Kindle Vella, I believe. You know, people will upload their episodes basically, or their short chapters, and then
okay.
And then they just wait for the next episode to be uploaded, and that's they like.
Well, you know, some adults read like that too. You know, that was how Zane got started. Zane was loading, she was doing one story at a time with her sex chronicles. And that was how she got started. People were clamoring for the next week. You know, she was like doing it every week. And then she decided to put them all in a book, and then she self-published, and that took off.
Wow.
And that was how she got started. And when we had our store, we were one of her first like places where her books were distributed. And she only distributed her books through Black bookstores. And I give her all credit for that. She was intentional.
And you know what?
About it.
You know what? I have some supporters of the Black Book Project that will only buy books donated to the Black Book Project from a Black bookstore, period. Like they're not, it's not Amazon, it's not Walmart, it's not Target, Barnes and Noble, They are going to a local Black owned bookstore, purchasing the books and having them mailed here. It's amazing. Like I so support that. And I just love everything about it.
It's beautiful. We've got to support our Black bookstores. I mean, we don't have as many now as we did back in the 90s and the 2000s.
In the 2000s, yeah, we had there were 300 in the early 2000s, like first half of the 2000s. There were about 300 Black bookstores nationwide across.
Oh wow!
Because in Houston, we had like 5 just in our city. I mean, there were a lot of Black bookstores, but they, you know, Amazon and just. Amazon killed a lot of businesses, not just the Black
took
ones.
over.
They killed a lot of Black stores overall. But you know, there's a renaissance, there's a resurgence, and that's why Rhonda has her book, her anthology coming out called what is the name of it? I know it's Renaissance is in the title.
Called A New Renaissance. You know, we have the Renaissance, and 100 years later, we have the New Renaissance.
Right.
I love it.
Yes, so it'll be a celebration of African American fiction. It'll be hitting Amazon on the 18th of February.
Oh,
congratulations!
Yeah,
congratulations! I'm gonna have to get it. Yes.
So I'll make sure you get the information. I need to get in touch with you about something else anyway, so we'll be in touch soon.
Okay.
Okay, well, Meredith, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
I appreciate you all so much. I cannot wait to share the success story and be able to celebrate the community support.
Yeah, and kudos to you for keeping a project going, because a lot of people start things, but they don't keep them going, and you're keeping yours going. So kudos to you for that.
And I went ahead and put the link to the Amazon wish list back into the chat. But is
Okay.
there any way that people can reach out to you if they want more information?
Yes. They can reach me at it's all over the place. Black Book Project Nashville at gmail.com.
Okay.
Just Black Book Project Nashville at gmail.com.
Okay.
They can reach me, or they can go directly to the Bookham's website to reach me, or they can just Google Meredith McKinney, Nashville, Tennessee, and all my email addresses will pop up. And I will be able to get them. And you know what, guys, it's so funny because before I started this Black Book Project, it was so weird because people wouldn't have access to me unless I gave them access to me. Now somebody said, I Googled you, got your email address. And I'm like, yes, that means several other people are able to just Google and be like, hey, how can I support? How can I help? It's great. So it's been absolutely amazing. It's been a wonderful journey. And so I'm excited about this journey to 2K, and I can't wait to share it with you all.
Well, congratulations on everything that you're doing.
Yeah, and thank you.
Thank you so
Yes,
much, Dr.
and
Lawson
thank you
and
for returning.
Gwen.
And you have a good evening.
Thank you all so much. Y'all be careful.
Okay.
Oh, you too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, and so we have our final guest. He has a children's book, and it's called I Just Want to Flip, but he also has some other books he's working on, and his name is Jelp Shinholster the Fourth, and you don't meet a lot of fourths, so I'm going to find out about I want to know about that. And the name Jelp is odd, and Shinholster is not common either. So
Laughing.
yeah, he heard, but I guess you heard what I said. So welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And you have you are the fourth. So that means there was a third, a junior, and the senior before you. So that would be your great grandfather.
Yes. And actually my son's name is Joke too. He's just not the fifth. My wife wanted him to have a middle name, so he is a little unique. So yes, I do. There's another Joke as well.
There's another Joke. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I saw your cover for your book, I Just Want to Flip, and it was very, very beautifully illustrated. So do you have a copy of it with you?
Yes, ma'am, I do. It is right here. And before we start, there's a little special guest that wants to kind of stop in real quick just to say hi to you guys.
Okay.
Can you come?
Okay.
So this is the inspiration for the book. He has to go to bed, so he only can stay for a couple seconds, but you can say hi, and you got to go to bed.
Now, is this Joe? Is this Joe with the middle name?
Yes, this is Joe, JD.
Okay, and what's your middle name, Joe?
Dominic.
Okay, well, congratulations on being the inspiration for a book. That's a major thing.
And he looks just like the boy on the cover. Is that on purpose?
Yes, that is on purpose. Now.
All right.
Good night.
All right, well, good. Now, how old is he? How old is your son?
So he's 11 now, but when for the book, he's actually 7 because that's when he actually told us that he wanted to actually start doing gymnastics. So yes, so it's from, actually it's weird. The book is from him being 7 years old up until 10 years old, because that's actually how long it took us for me and mom to agree to actually put him on the gymnastics team. It took us about 3 years to get him to that point and agree to it.
What did you hold back? What were the reasons that you kind of held back or hesitated to do it?
Part of the reason was the commitment. The one thing that we did know was that, and it's actually part of the book, anytime your child is on the team, that means the whole family has to be committed to the team. That means you have to go to the different meets, you have to go to the practices, you have to be financially stable to actually afford it, because you have monthly fees, plus the competition fees, plus the coaches' fees, plus the actual equipment and things of that nature. So it's a huge commitment. And that was kind of one of our hesitancies. Plus, we have another son who actually loves to play basketball. So the other thing was, okay, so how do we split these two
Yes.
and make sure that everybody's getting what they want?
Mhm. Now,
And
is
it-
your other son younger than Joe or older?
Yes, he's 9 years old.
Okay, all right. So yeah, you have to make sure that each one gets what they need, you know.
Yes.
'Cause you don't want, children are funny. They carry things into old age. If they feel like they were, dissed or disrespected or didn't get what another sibling got, they never forget it. I know.
Yes,
I mean, they carry it into old age. They can remember. So it's important that we, because they're different, but there needs to be balance in terms of, time commitment and attention and things like that. So it sounds like you all have worked that out. And I know gymnastics is an expensive sport because I didn't know there were all those different fees that you mentioned. I just knew it was expensive. And in basketball, you can kind of play that anywhere. But
yes, yes, the basketball is kind of easy. The gymnastics is kind of hard. This weekend, we're actually getting our first taste this weekend where they both have to do something totally different. So mom is taking one to basketball. I'm taking another one to gymnastics about an hour away from home. So we're finally getting that taste of what it's like to actually have two kids in two different sports and having to split that time commitment.
Well, at least you'll have a lot to discuss when y'all all come back together.
Yes.
yeah.
So you said that the book explores the physical and mental preparation that young boys go through. What is some of the preparation that your son had to go through, what Job had to go through?
So one of the things that he had to learn was that gymnastics wasn't just about flipping and doing cartwheels.
I was going to say that because the name of the book is I Just Want to Flip. And
yes,
you probably have to know all these other things. And he was like, wait a minute, all I want to do is flip.
and that is correct. So you have to actually make sure, first of all, they do stretching every time that they go, making sure that they loosen up their muscles so that they reduce risk and injury. The other piece is the conditioning piece. People think that you can just miraculously do a backflip. No, there's a lot of techniques and work that go into doing a backflip. And actually, it's not even called a backflip, it's called a back tuck. So I learned a lot of new terminology in regards to, gymnastics. But one of the major things was that my son had to learn how to build upon the skills and how to trust his coaches to know that whatever they're teaching them is building them to do the next moves or the next routine or the next flip that he's trying to learn.
Absolutely.
So what kind of exercises or things is he doing at his age now? Based on, okay, and at the Olympics, we see that the males, they do those ring things that they hold.
Yes.
And they do the horse. I think it's called a horse.
Pommel horse.
And then they do a floor exercise.
Yes.
And I'm
They
trying
do the
they do the bars. They do the bars. And
the high bar.
Okay. So are they doing
And the
that
ball.
at his age? Is he doing those things at his age?
Yes. So the difference between the females and the males is the males actually have 6 events and the females only have 4 events. So that's one of the things I literally just learned like maybe about a month ago. Even though we've been a part of gymnastics, when he finally started doing competitions, you honestly get to see the difference between the males and the females. The one thing about the males was that the males floor routine, there is no music. So the entertainment,
right?
there's no music for the males gymnastics, only for the females. So one of the things that we've been learning is, trying to get, let our son understand that, what, females do things that are different than males. And this is the reason why I even wrote the book, because when I was looking for information in books for him to read about gymnastics, they were only about females. So that was actually my inspiration for writing the book, honestly. I couldn't find anything that was boy related. Then I was like, okay, that's boy related. And then there's African-American boys. So I was like, okay, you know what? I really need to make sure that I write this book for him specifically, but for other boys so that they can understand and see somebody else that is actually doing something. And I'm not disparaging other sports because I got a son that loves football, basketball, and other sports. But this is a sport that you don't see Black males participating in a lot or getting the shine that they should.
That is true. I'm trying to remember with the Olympics, because I watched the Summer Olympics, not the winter, but Other than ice skating, I might watch that sometime, but I would really watch the Summer Olympics, the gymnastics, track and field, of course. I don't watch basketball because I feel like those people, I see them all the time anyway. So, and America's gonna win. So what's the point? But anyway, I do watch the men's gymnastics, and I'm trying to remember if I've ever seen a black man. I think I have once maybe, but they're rare. They're not common. It's not like in track and field where everybody's black, or swimming. We just recently started in the last 10 years or so having black swimmers. Before there were no black swimmers, on males or females. But now when he's competing, where he's training and all of that, are there other black boys there, or is he kind of the only one?
No, there's other black boys there as well,
Okay.
which is surprising to me. And actually, when we go to the competition, there are other black boys as well there too. So I think it's something that, that black boys are drawn to. I think the biggest thing is the support and the longevity of it, because it is so expensive. There's just a major financial commitment. And I'm in a lot of Facebook gymnastics groups. Now, they're normally dominated by females, but the one thing you notice that these parents are obsessive about this sport. And a lot of times, for myself, I'm not excessive. Now, the one thing I am excessive about is supporting my son. Yeah. So I will do what I need to support him, but I'm not like these parents. One parent said that in 2 years, she had 2 children and she spent $64,000 for gymnastics.
And that was probably uniforms, trips, and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the main thing is she had $64,000. So that's, she had that to spend, which means, the income.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes it's not about having the money to spend. Sometimes it's about having that support system, because they know who they can raise that money with. And like when my daughter did pageants, if you look at the number of people who were supporting the girls who were going to these pageants, they had lists of people and businesses that were supporting them. And sometimes we don't have a lot of that.
Oh, okay. So, see, I didn't even know about that. I thought it was I know the parents are obsessive. A lot of them are really, their plan from when their child is 5 years old is to get them to the Olympics. Because once they get there, it's not the Olympics they make the money on, is the endorsements that they get rich, that get wealthy with. So I know it's just like, just like the pageant thing can be like that too. A lot of people start their girls out in pageants at a real young age, and they're hoping for, financial windfall. But that's really interesting. Now, in your book, I just want to flip. What's the storyline for the book? And show us some of the illustrations. The cover is beautiful. And who did your illustrations?
It's interesting.
Okay.
The one thing that was the hardest was finding someone to do the illustrations. I went through a couple of illustrators. I know Sabrina, the first guest, she talked about using Fiverr. I used Fiverr in the beginning. I was trying to be very frugal, and that did not work out for me well. One of the issues was that a lot of individuals do not know the components of gymnastics. So they were mixing up different sports that weren't gymnastics related when I was trying to tell them how to do the illustrations. So I actually went through a company called 1,000 Storybooks. And what they do is they actually do your illustrations, they do editing, they also do formatting. So pretty much you just give them the storyline. They actually contract out for an illustrator. So that's why you do not see an illustrator's name on my book, because they don't even let me know who the illustrator is.
Wow. Interesting. Yes. Now that's the first time hearing about them.
Yeah, so they're a great company, and it was within my price range. They actually offered me, a good deal, along with making sure that I got what I wanted as a finished product. And I can show you a couple pages. The first page is literally my favorite page, honestly. It's my son actually doing a handstand in his bedroom. And as you can see, there's a basketball, football, and a baseball in the corner. Yeah. And the two things that is kind of very noticeable is the posters on the wall. And the funny thing about this book, we try to make it as close to our home as possible. These actual sayings are somewhere in our house somewhere. So everything you see in this book, for the most part, is literally a part of our life. So the first one talks about, it says, be kinder than necessary. And then it also says, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. And we always do positive affirmations in the morning. As a family, we do an opening prayer. We do the Lord's Prayer in the morning. All of our kids have their own affirmations. I even have my own affirmations. My wife has her own. And even our turtle, we have a red ear slider turtle. We pray for her too. So everybody in the house gets prayed for, and they have their own affirmations. But we try to do that because one of the things that we know is that as Black people and raising 2 Black boys, that when you go out into the world, everybody's not for you. So we have to build them up before they leave out this house every day.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now you mentioned that you were learning about gymnastics. Once your son got into it, how did he get that interest? Was it from watching the Olympics? Was it from watching the kids doing the flips on the streets? What was going on there?
I can't lie to you. I still don't know. To this day, I still don't know. I still do not know. One of the things is that my son, so kids have iPads. They have YouTube Kids. And I believe he saw things over time, and that's what grabbed his attention. Because honestly, I've never been in a gymnastics studio before I went with him. The only thing I knew about gymnastics was Summer Olympics, girls gymnastics, Dominique Dawes, Gabby Douglas, Simone Biles. That's all I knew. So I don't really always, I don't know always how to answer that question. I ask him all the time, and he's like, it's just something I wanted to do. And for him, having access to the internet, he can figure out, and look up things. And then he kind of just comes to us and kind of lets us know what he wants to do. Because if it was up to me, he would be playing basketball, and that would be about it.
Well, I gotta say it's a testament to your family, because you talked about about how you come together, you have the positive affirmations. So he had a safe space to come to you and tell you that he wanted to do something that was out of the ordinary for you, and he felt brave enough to do that. So that's a testament to you and your family.
Yeah, we try to be as open as possible with our children. The one thing that me and my wife had to learn was that, as individuals who went to college, we go to college to better ourselves, to put ourselves in better situations. So it's natural that our children are going to adapt and like other things that we might not like. I'm a hip hop R&B kid. My son, JD, he doesn't like hip hop. He doesn't like R&B. He likes classical music. He likes the more techno music for the most part. And you know what? I have to learn how to accept that, because that's who he is. Now, I will sprinkle in my music at times, and he'll give me that look because I want him to learn the culture. But I have to kind of accept the fact that, you know what? He's just going to be different than me. And I have to embrace that, and I have to love that, because he's just going to be a different individual.
Yeah, our children are not like clones of us at all. They are individual. So, and that's a beautiful thing, because, we were individuals. I'm not like either of my parents. I have some of their best things, and, they raised us and they poured into us, and a lot of the philosophy and principles come from them. But your gifts are your gifts individually. The things that you're drawn to, that's an individual thing. So, that's just who we are as human beings. And I just think it's very exciting. Now, what is some of your favorite moves that your son, some of his favorite things he likes to do as far as the gymnastic moves?
So I'm gonna give you like a sequence. I'm sorry, I'm gonna sound real technical. I'm gonna try to make it simple. So he does this thing. He can do. It's a thing called an aerial, but I like when he does it's a round off back tuck. So really, pretty much, it's a backflip without any hands. So I like when he does that. I like when he does the vault, which is when he runs and then he jumps on a vault, and then pretty much he does a backflip or a front flip. Mm-hmm. We're working on it because there's still things that we have to work on a lot. The pommel horse that you talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. So at his age, he doesn't actually do the pommel. It's called a mushroom. And what he has to do is he has to go in circles around this mushroom in the air. So he's working on that. Now we have a mushroom downstairs in our basement that he has to work on. We actually have a ring set downstairs that they both work on. My other son, he actually took gymnastics too. Even though he loves basketball, he takes gymnastics. The one thing that we learned is that our youngest son is going to do anything our oldest son does. Like, so my oldest son teaches my youngest son how to do gymnastics. So they're downstairs having a whole, instructional class. They yell at each other, but it's a whole instructional class. They actually did a performance last week where we had to watch them do different routines in our basement. But those are some of the things that we kind of love about, just having my oldest son do gymnastics. Everybody gets involved in it. It actually expanded, our horizon and our family's horizon, because the one thing that I know a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it was one of the things that my wife was very adamant about, was that, how are people going to view our son when he does gymnastics? Because it seemed like a feminine sport a lot of the times. So how are my family members and how my friends and how are his friends going to view him? And we've had a little bit of pushback from people questioning certain things. They question sexuality, even though he's a young child, and things of that nature. And he has friends at school that are not his friends anymore, because he does gymnastics all the time, and certain boys don't want to be around another boy that does gymnastics. So we've had some very interesting conversations lately, just about being yourself, being confident in who you are. The fact that your father wrote a book about you, that makes other kids jealous at times too. So there's just been a lot that this book has brought. Recently, we just had the conversation about being Black. It's kind of interesting. He's 11, and we've got this far without having that conversation. We knew it was going to happen one day, but last week we had to have the conversation because something happened in school, and it came up, and he had to have that honest conversation that you look different than a lot of people around you. And you might get treated differently, and you all can do the same thing, but you might get a different consequence than everybody else. And then we shed a couple tears, and we embraced them, and we told them, everything was going to be okay. We're going to always support you, but you have to recognize that you look different than other people. So yes, and you might get treated differently too.
Getting a lot of strengthening in these younger years.
Yes,
because that's something that he'll be able to need and use as he
Correct.
goes through life. Parental support is everything when you're a kid. I mean, it's just whether you fall down, or whatever happens, that is so key. So he likes to do the flip, the back tuck, and he does a mushroom around a horse. Okay, so I think this is just amazing. Now, I never thought of gymnastics, not male gymnastics, as a feminine sport, because I didn't know people had that kind of. Some people would have that kind of impression. They might be thinking about a female gymnastics. They might, their minds might be going to
female gymnastics is a little bit more popular, I believe.
Right.
Correct.
It gets a lot more exposure because you don't even know who the male gymnast is. There's no male Simone Biles, and I don't mean from a race standpoint. I just mean popularity. Who was the male? Who's the top male gymnast? I don't know. You know about the swimmers. You know about the top male swimmers, but you
could be Jump Shinholster, the one with the name.
It could be the one with the middle name. I think it's great. So what plans do you have in terms of do you think he'll continue in gymnastics? Because he's in elementary school now.
Yes. So I ask him all the time about, what do you really want to do? Do you really want to do gymnastics? And the thing about us is that we try to be realists as parents. Okay, we want our children to dream, but we're realistic. And the one thing he said, I'm going to be in the Olympics. And that's his thing. And it's like, okay, that sounds great, but is that realistic? So he's pretty much confident that he's going to continue to do gymnastics. And honestly, I know my son. My son is very determined.
Right.
He's going to always do gymnastics in some shape, form, or fashion. I can see that being going forward. I don't think he's ever going to give that up. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud to know that, you know what, I don't think he's going to give it up. I think if he's going to be a coach, if he's going to be Olympian, he's going to continue to make sure that he's doing gymnastics, and he's going to teach other people about it as well too.
Now, have you gotten any media exposure with him in gymnastics? I'm just curious, like in your local town, you know, locally?
Well, not really. So with COVID, you know, kind of hitting, and he literally started gymnastics, the actual competition piece, while COVID was happening. So his first competition was a virtual competition, literally.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so what they did was they actually videotaped the kids and sent the videos in for the competition. So last month was his first in-person competition that he's ever had. So there hasn't been a whole lot of, you know, publicity about him. I think the one thing about gymnastics is very local and regional. And then there's kids that's been doing gymnastics, you know, their whole almost entire life. So he's kind of a newbie to gymnastics. So yeah, so it's not been a whole lot of press, but we're working on that.
Well,
Well, that would be a story that somebody should pick up. I'm just, you know. So
well, along those same lines, I'm wondering, you know, because you know you have this book. Do you plan to use it as maybe a catalyst or a platform to attract other young African-American boys to the sport?
Yes, one of the things is that, so I work in DC. I work for So Others Might Eat. It's a nonprofit that I know. So I work for So Others Might Eat. I actually work in the family housing division. So we work with affordable housing. So what I did was I actually read the book to the kids that I work with. The one thing about it is they already know who JD is because he's been came to my job many times and they seen him do flips. But yes, one of the things that we love to do and we want to do is make sure that other African-American boys, girls as well too, like anybody, actually is exposed to the book to actually expand their mind. And the other thing, the reason why I wrote the book and the way I wrote it was that parents would read it too, so that they actually understand that, you know what, as parents, it's our job to be the catalyst for change. At the end of the book, there's actually a letter to the parents that I specifically wrote because I was that parent that was kind of closed-minded, but I had a little bit of an opening to kind of listen to my child. And then from that opening, we got to this point where we have a book. He's in gymnastics. He loves it. The coaches love him. He's, you know, he's a great kid. But I think other kids don't get that opportunity because all I know and all most of African Americans know when it comes to sports is the major traditional sports. And especially as a dad, you know, a lot of times we're very closed-minded in what we want our children to do and want them to be. And I think, you know, having a book like this will open up the minds of parents to kind of let their child, you know, go into different sports. It could be lacrosse, soccer, anything, but, you know, you have to actually listen to your children and you have to actually learn your children. That was one of the hardest things for me and my wife was actually learning our children. Like you said, they're not going to be just like us. So learn their dislikes, their likes, learning how to discipline them differently, but fairly. Things of that nature is one of the important things that we've had to learn as parents.
Awesome. Well, we only have a couple of minutes left. So if you can remind us where we can find your book, how.
Show us the cover again.
Yes, please show the cover again.
I think the cover is awesome.
So you can find the book on ijustwanttoflip.com. I try to make it as simple as possible so that anybody can actually go find the website. The other thing is that we actually are, you know, I'm working on the merchandising piece. If you can see, I have this I Just Want to Flip shirt. It's a watercolor shirt.
Okay.
Sweatshirt. On the website, it actually will take you to our YouTube channel where it will actually show videos of JD in his competition doing the different routines. So every competition that we go to, we videotape it, and we're going to upload the information and the videos on there. We're going to upload some of his practice stuff because we want to show people that, you know what, he's human. No, he makes mistakes. So we want to show you the whole process of how gymnastics look. Also my Facebook page is on my website as well too. And anybody that wants to contact me, my contact information is there as well. I'm always accessible besides when I'm at work, my 9 to 5. Yes, anybody can reach out and contact me about anything, about signings, about how to write a book. Because one of the biggest things, a lot of people like, Jeff, how did you write this book? Right. And I always tell people, like, it was one of the things that I did in quiet. The only people that knew I was writing the book was my wife and my son, and I had to hide it from them because they're very anxious. But it was something that was near and dear to me that I wanted to complete. It literally took me 2.5 years to write the book, and it wasn't consistent. It wasn't like I was writing it the whole time. In 2020, I had the idea. I wrote it down. In 2021, March, I started really writing the book, and it took me about 6 months to complete it with the illustrations. So it is a process, but I want people to know that anything is possible. Sometimes we just have to reach out to people and get the information. We don't have to do it all by ourselves. I'm a do-it-yourselfer, so by default, I like to do things by myself. I had to actually reach out to get somebody to help me with the book, which was 1,000 storybooks. And this is what we got in the end. So I'm just glad that we have a product that we can actually show people and hopefully inspire other young people and other parents as well.
Well,
Okay,
congratulations.
well, that's an amazing story. And thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And continued success to you and your sons and your wife, because it takes a family.
And forget your wife now.
That's right. All right, you have a great evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Well, that's it for this week. All of our guests this week were about children or young people, how to inspire them. And that was, I didn't even realize that until the show continued to transpire, but it was great. So next week, our guests are Yolanda Gladden, she's a children's author. Dr. Donna Clovis, she's an author and award-winning journalist. Lottie Pitts is a religious faith author. And we have another children's author, Terrence Shipment. So we'll continue on and continue to bring you all some amazing guests with amazing stories, which is exciting. We will be celebrating our 300th guests on March 1st. So one of the guests for the March 1st show will be our 300th guest. Isn't that amazing? So anyway,
It's Mardi Gras Day.
Is it? Well,
yeah, I won't be there, so I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. And March 2nd is National Read Aloud. Is it Read Aloud Day? It's a National Reading Day. March 2nd is. I forgot the exact words, but that's coming up. And that's not an African-American specific day. It's a nationwide reading in general. So I'll have some more information about that next week, just so to let people know about it. And in the meantime, thank you all for tuning in once again. And we love you. And I'm Gwen Richardson signing out.
I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a great night and a wonderful week.
We'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye.